What's going on, everybody? TheKennyDubz here with another Mega Man X Dive Character overview video. Today we'll be taking a look at Dr. Light, the martial artist. Okay, now here we're taking a look at Dr. Light, the martial artist. This was one of the few characters in my Taiwan account that I didn't get when I was chasing it. I got up to 24 pulls on his banner, did not get him. So, looking a little forward to attempting to pull him tomorrow, but I don't think I'll fully invest into him. However, let's take a look at his kit, shall we? First up, we have the Budo Hadoken. Launches Budo Hadoken to deal 200% attack damage to the target and mark the target. Then teleport to the target's location and then launch, I'm probably going to butcher this, a Budo Senpuyaku attack that deals damage to targets within range and inflicts slow to the target after it's been hit to reduce the movement speed by 50%. Effective teleport is only valid for the player and will be used in place if no target is marked. Now, it's worth noting that according to the wiki, the follow-up attack is about 76% attack damage there. But as you might be able to tell from this skill is very, very centered for PvP. And Martial Artist Dr. Light, or Dr. the Martial Artist, is a PvP-centered character. So that's where he will end up shining. Because of this will allow you to mark the target, and then you'll be able to TP to them and then launch another assault on them, which is quite nice. So let's take a look at the modifier chips. First up, the power increase. Increase damage rate of Budo Hadoken by 10%. Second up, another power increase. Increase the damage rate of Budo Senpuyaku by 10%. Again, And then finally, the chip that you're going to be using, like all the time, is Showtime. When Budo Senpuyaku is activated, gain vulnerability status, preventing you from taking any debuff or any damage or debuff statuses. Now, the reason you're going to be using this because this is true Showtime. And because it's just good, right? So after you mark them with your Budo Hadoken, you teleport to them and execute the second stage of your attack. And why not have wow, words are hard. Why not have true Showtime on that part of your attack? Alongside that, these two modifier chips aren't really all that great anyway. They just give the kind of generic power increase. I guess they are a bit better than usual because they're 10% instead of 5%, but this is the one you're going to be using. And then, following that, we have the Budo Barrage. Perform a dash in the direction of the target, dealing 120% of attack damage, earning the target immobile. So that's very, very nice there. Pretty reminiscent of Akuma's Raging Demon. After hitting the target, it will deal continuous damage with a repeat attack. You do not take any damage during use. So, you have iframes during this attack, and it's a dash attack. That's quite nice. You can close distance quite easily, so you'll be able to pursue zoners quite nicely. For the modifier chips, we have the mobility. Oh, actually, before that, the continuous hit, according to the wiki, does about 73% attack damage per hit. So there is that, worth keeping in mind as well. And now for the modifier chips, we have mobility, reduce prep time by 20%, so it'll be roughly about a 5% cooldown timer. Isn't bad. Next up, we have power increase again. Increase the damage rate of repeat attack by 15%. And then finally, what you're probably going to be using most of the time here is the overbearing modifier chip. Now, this allows the immobility cause of Budo Barrage to ignore preventive shield and not be able to be removed. So that's just what you're going to pick there, so that when you connect with this, the target becomes immobile and you can just go to town with your damage, right? Like, that's why we're going to be using. The mobility chip also isn't bad, but I think this is 100% better. Just because the only way to stop this would be just inherent immobilized resistance, and I think that this is much better than the mobility chip here. Well, it basically is. Following that, we have the passive skills here. So we have the Budo Spirit. When the repeated attack hits, it will weaken the targets within range, reducing targets damaged by 17% to be stacked up to 2 times. When Budo Hadoken hits, running the target unable to use skills. So this is a really, really good passive here. So what this allows you to do is stack debuffs on the target so that you kind of become tankier in a way, because you're stacking up attack debuffs. Right, lowering the damage you take by 17%. If you get 2 stacks up, that's a minus 34% damage that you will end up taking. And then this will allow you to skill lock or skill seal the target, so they won't be able to use their own skills to get away, engage, heal, whatever they're going to do. So that's fantastic there. And that's on the Budo Hadoken as well, so that's your skill 1 right there. Next up, we have speed is the answer. Become accelerated after using Budo Barrage. Increases movement speed by 35%. Again, this is very, very nice. Here, similar to Chun-Li, where you get a speed bonus for using your mobility skill. That's fantastic for not only race mode, but also in PvP, because you can engage or disengage very, very easily. Following that, we have the Iron Cloth passive skill here. When HP is 50% or higher, reduce damage taken by 15%. So as you can see, just with at least the first part of this, we have quite a bit of damage mitigation in, Martial Artist Dr. Light, or Dr. Light the Martial Artist. Granted, a little bit of it can be mitigated through Predative Shield, but when activating Budo Hadoken or Budo Senpuyaku, gain an enhanced defense with the effect and duration equal to the increase in movement speed you may have gotten from speed is the answer. This status will not be offset by interference status. Now, the wording of this is kind of interesting for me, because it says that you may have gotten from speed is the answer, but this is worded as if you will get it, so that's kind of weird. I'm assuming it's just, it's just an error. Like, there's so many errors in this game. Again, like Chun-Li, the buff you get from this will be based off of this. So you use this first, use your Budo Barrage, and then you get your, you have access to your damage enhancement or defense enhanced status when you're using your skill 1. And this won't be offset by interference status. And basically what that means is it can't be removed by interference. It can still be removed via Grudge Axe or Singularity Slasher, but things like Zero Nightmare Scourge or Scourge from, wow, I forgot the name, Criminal Valstrike Zero should not work, as they inflict interference, and then because of that the Scourge will trigger. So they would not be able to get rid of this because they need the interference to register for that. Oh, actually, Scourge might still work. It wouldn't be removed from their modifier chips at least on Zero, Criminal Valstrike Zero, that would remove this in particular because it's not offset by the interference status. It might still work from the Scourge. I'm not sure how that would actually interact. Following that, we have the Golden Cap. When using Budo Hadoken or Budo Senpuyaku, gain a shield that goes to 108% attack damage, which is very, very nice. There's always, it's always nice to have a shield. This effect only triggers with a 6-second cooldown, which I'm pretty sure Budo Hadoken is on about a 6-second cooldown. So once you have your Budo Hadoken or Budo Senpuyaku active, you can get a shield. So that's quite nice. And then Budo Hadoken can now go through terrain and barriers. Again, very, very nice there. So now you don't have to worry about things being in the way when you use your Budo Hadoken to get the mark and things like that because of this passive here. You get a shield on top of that as well. And the shield is going to be very, very nice because you can TP into the opposition and activate the second part of this attack here. The downside with that is that they could actually, well, no, unless they have preventative shield, they wouldn't be able to really guard against this all that well because you get the skill seal with this here. They would still be able to seal it with Grudge Axe though, so I mean that's something for the shield, that is. And then finally we have Barrage Hit. Use Budo Barrage repeatedly after this trigger. You can only trigger once for 8-second cooldown. When you hit a target in defense in damage reduction status, increase damage you do by 20%. So this is good. This actually amplifies your damage by quite a bit because you do have access to the basically restriction off. Which is what this icon is. It lets you use a skill multiple times in a row, kind of like the evil energies on super base. And then on top of that, you deal enhanced damage when you hit a target in damage reduction status, which actually kind of opens up a bit more things you can use in terms of like weapons and things like that on Martial Artist Dr. Light. But that's it for his passive skills. I'm going to show his DNA now. Now I do this each time, even if I don't think the character's going to get his DNA, because he might not. I don't know if he is or not. But if he doesn't, this will just show you what you have to look forward to when he gets his DNA in the global version of the game. So first up, Enhanced Iron Cloth. Increases Iron Cloth's damage reduction effect by 40%. So this brings you up to about a 21% damage reduction on the Iron Cloth, which is actually not bad. Just an inherent 21%-ish when you're above 50% HP. That's not too bad. I would like to see a little bit more, but because it's not even linked to having a specific weapon type tied to it, that's very, very nice there. Though I wish it was a little bit more tied into this passive right here. Following that, we have Rejection. When you target as a player, increase damage you deal by 6%. When you're attacked by a player, reduce damage you take by 6%. Now, I really like this passive here because this is kind of like the Akuma card's Master or Way of the Fist, where it incorporates both player killer and player sentinel into one. That's very, very nice because it's not named the same as player killer, player sentinel, and so it'll stack both of them. But also, this is named differently than some of the other passives we have in a similar vein to this, so they would stack with them. So that's quite nice there. Although I don't think there's anything in inherited DNA or random DNA that you could put into another character that would potentially conflict with these kinds of passives at the current point in time. And then finally we have Invincible. When activating Budo Hadoken and Budo Suppiyaku, gain an enhanced damage status with the effective duration equal to the enhanced movement speed you may have gotten from speed is the answer. The stats will not be offset by interference. So here we have, the offensive portion of, the offensive buff here. Kind of like Chun-Li has in this game. So, you get after you get your speed buff, then you want to activate your Budo Hadoken and Budo Suppiyaku, because then you will get your defense and attack buffs as well. Let me just double check. I think it is, yeah, okay, yeah, it's both Budo Hadoken. So you use your Budo Hadoken and you get 2 buff, and they won't be offset by interference status. And then finally, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the at the unique recombined DNA we have here, and it is the enhanced defense resonation, which isn't bad. I like this one a lot more than I like a lot of the other unique DNAs. This one, when you're in enhanced defense status, increased damage deal by 8%. Now, this one is actually what a lot of people confuse with some of the other DNAs and card effects. As it says, when you hit a target, those other ones say when you hit a target in, X status, increased damage deal. But a lot of people just get kind of confused and they think, it's like, oh, when I have this status, I'll deal more damage. No, no, no. It's when you hit a target in attack enhancement status, you deal more damage, which doesn't really make all that much sense to me. Like, why? You know what I'm saying? But this one I like because this is like, hey, when you have enhanced defense status, which Martial Arts Dr. Light inherently has, deal more damage. Other than that, I would prefer something a little bit less. I say a little bit less situational, but the reason it's really situational is because of things like Regent Singularity Slasher. So you're not always gonna have these active because those buffs can be removed. But it's not bad. Other than that, we have zero range boost, range adaptability. In here, homeopathy adaptability, which isn't necessarily bad either, because that actually does decently well alongside Dr. Light's Iron Cloth passive. And then for his defensive one over here, a blind res, defocus res, continuous damage res, and immobilize res. Okay, that's a decent one. Slow res, or slow attack, immobilize special attack, not res. These are pretty good. Damage reduction special attack. Okay, that one sounds pretty solid as well. Just because he has all these inherently in his kit. But yeah, so that's going to be it for his kit in general. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some weapons that might pair well with Dr. Light. Alright, and Dr. Light himself doesn't really have any inherent weapons that he likes to use. So this is again one of those characters where you can just kind of pick weapons and then kind of go from there. Now, one of the things I typically recommend is hybrid with Buster Melee, because that's just easy to build around. It's pretty reliable as well. So you go Buster Melee, and then that'll influence your cards later on. But Airbuster just lets you become speed and like chase down opponents. You might not really need Airbuster as much because you're going to have your speed buff from using one of your skills. But this just makes you go even faster, which is actually kind of important for Dr. Light, because Dr. Light wants to be up close and personal. So being able to catch up to the opposition is something that's really, really important for him. So you might want to go with Airbuster if you're going to opt to go for the Buster Melee combo. Another option is Explosive Bolt. This way, you don't have to engage as closely, or rather, you have something from range to deal with. Though, I think Decide's Will is a lot better for that nowadays. But if you like me, like to use busters, you'll probably lean more towards the Explosive Bolt. Now you can also use the Sniper Buster or The destructive laser, as those are also excellent weapons to use as well for snipers, and you can even make use of the all precision buster. I don't really like this buster as much. I don't think it's very good. It is kind of powerful, but I don't think it's worth all the trouble that you would have to go through to kind of like unlock it. Just because for this one, you really want to have your Falcon wings active. Though depending on the map, it might be a bit easier. But on the maps where I think this would be very, very useful, I think it's a bit harder to activate for that because the Falcon Wings lets you get quick hunt status when you... Well, this lets you ignore terrain when you quick hunt status. And what quick hunt status does is when you hit a target in long range or medium range because of Eagle Eye, the flight speed, you can shoot faster and you have less reload time. So that's really good if you can trigger it. It'd be easier on some maps, but I think on the maps where like I would want to have this, I think it's a bit harder to get them to trigger. And with the explosive bolt, as per usual, I typically recommend player killer as the preferred skill because it's just infinitely easier to make use of than penetration. As penetration had potential for higher damage output, but it's a lot harder to set up. Whereas player killer, you can just exist with this. It's it's just a lot more consistent, and you don't have to worry about setting up the kill shot with the penetration. Aside from that, if you're going to end up going with the hybrid buster melee combo, Nightmare is a good option. Swinging Nightmare around just gets you your attack buff, so there's really no reason to not swing it around if you're using Nightmare. And on top of that, you have access to your crit amplification as well should you want to do that. I can't mention hybrid buster melee without mentioning Grudge Axe. Grudge Axe is just a fantastic weapon, even though I don't really like it. Grudge Axe is probably still one of the best melee, if not the best melee weapon, simply because of this passive right here, Spirit Damnation, alongside Spirit Possession. This inflicts out of control, which reverses the horizontal controls of the opposition when they're hit, and then this one just steals their buffs and gives them to you. So it's just really, really good because of that. And then a side grade to the Grudge Axe, you can use a Singularity Slasher, though Singularity Slasher is, I think, it's a lot worse than the Grudge Axe because Singularity Slasher has the capability of removing buffs. But why remove buffs when you can just take the buffs? Now, the bigger benefit with Singularity Slasher is that I'm pretty sure the buff removal is guaranteed, whereas on Grudge Axe it's like a 60% chance to steal the buffs, but 60% chance is still very much in your favor, so you can basically just go with that and use it. I also can't forget to mention the Sides Will. A lot of people don't like the Sides Will, but it's just a fantastic weapon. This gives you an option to kind of like zone with, so you don't have to get close. Or if the opposition is playing a zoner character and you can't manage to get close because that's what Dr. Light wants to be, the Sides Will is a good option for that because you can still poke from range. And then maybe depending on how the match goes, you can actually launch off a Budo Hadoken and then TP close to them and then get where you want to be. Other than that, a side grade to the Cannon God is a side grade from the this is strictly worse than the Sides Will, but Cannon God is an option as well that you can make use of if you wanted to use the Sides Will and you don't have it, you can use this instead. This does have the upside of inflicting Immobilize, so you can make use of that to try to close the distance and hope you trigger the Immobilize as you're closing in. Now, a bit more of an interesting option I think that you could make use of with Dr. Light, the martial artist, is actually using sprayers. Just because he has a passive where you deal more damage when you're attacking enemies when they have attack crush on them. I forgot what it's called in this game. Attack reduction status. So with sprayers, you can actually use the Mad Nautilus chip, and the Mad Nautilus chip actually inflicts that status reduction as well, alongside it being a very potent 30% damage reduction, and that should stack alongside Dr. Light's reduction as well. So you could use, say, the electric spray gun Or another good one is the Gator Fangs. Gator Fangs is a very potent one. Or the Explosive Blower. Now, the downside with these is that you have to be relatively close, but being relatively close is where Dr. Light wants to be anyway. So, as long as you get your Budo Hadoken set up, you can close the distance with that. And then, even if you don't get the close distance with that, you do have your speed boost to attempt to potentially close the distance. So, things like Gator Fangs will be really, really good because Gator Fangs wants to be close and it deals a lot of damage up close because of the Rending Fangs at close range and then the Predator status. When hitting a target with Rending Fang gaining Predator status, when shooting increases shooting speed by 65%, and then it reduces your cooldown period as well. So, with the rapid reload. So that's very, very nice there. Something I did want to mention is kind of like a trolley build. Is the Glittering Spark, because the Glittering Spark actually has an inherent attack reduction status on it. So you can put the Magneto ship on top of that. And then on top of that, you could stack Dr. Light's attack reduction as well. It'll be like, I don't think it'll be too common, but I think it is something that might be kind of interesting to run if you actually end up getting Dr. Light and you have the Glittering Spark Light, right? Like if all the stars align and you already have most of this on your account, you're like, oh, let me get Dr. Light to try that too. I think that'll be pretty interesting to try. Unfortunately, I don't have Dr. Light or Glittering Spark, so I won't be able to make use of that at all. All right, now let's take a look at some cards that might pair with Dr. Light. Now, because Dr. Light has a few different options you can go for weapons, it's going to really depend on what you end up going to do with Dr. Light. Now, I say that all the time, but I always feel like I need to reiterate that with every character, just because your card setup is going to depend a lot on what weapons you're using, and on top of that, what you're going to be doing with your DNA. And that's going to be because if you have something in your DNA, it won't stack with your cards. So for card wise, I think a fantastic, just like a generic thing, especially for characters that are more PvP based, like Dr. Light the Martial Artist, Player Killer. Player Killer is a fantastic thing to have, and you can get the access to that on cards like the M Bison card here from the Street Fighter collaboration. There's also the Life Aura card, which you can get from the token shop, on top of the Sigma X 4-second performance card you get from the token shop as well. And if you're a little bit low on, say, coins, maybe you get lucky with card packs and you get the Player Killer from the Violin card. But the card pack, this is an S rank card, so you have to roll an S rank, and then on top of that, get the Violin card. However, there are a few more budget options that you can make use of as well down here that I will show in a second once I find them. You have access to the Wheel Gator card, which you can make in the research lab. Now, at max, it's on Player Killer 2. So you can actually stack two of these together because they're green, so you have Player Killer 2 and Player Killer 1. And then there's also the Mac card, which is from card packs as well. But because this is an A-rank, this is a bit easier to end up getting for people. So this is another way for you to get Player Killer. And then other than that, kind of as per usual, it's going to depend on what weapons you're using. So if you're going to go with the double busters, the hybrid buster melee setup, Elite Hunters is like tried and true, double amplification buster melee. It has double amplification, double adaptability. So then you have an 18% boost to your offense and defense just for existing while you have those equipped, because you get 10% there off of the regular card, off the 5-star card, and then anything less than 5-star you get 8% off of that. And this you can get access to from your guilds. So as long as your guild's pretty active, you might get lucky and get some of these. I think I forgot to show this earlier, but the Akuma card has the Master of the Fist passive, which will stack with Player Killer and Player Sentinel. And this right here, it's just like it's a more watered down version of the Martial Artist Dr. Light's passive, which is actually quite nice. If you actually have a 5-star version of Akuma, you get 6 more on top of the 8 that Dr. Light has inherently, so that's 14% right there. And then if you have 2 Akumas, you have 1 5-star and 1 4-star. Actually, I'm not sure what this goes up to. I think it's might go up to 6. If this goes up to 6, that'll be 10% just off of your cards, and then that'll be 16% with his DNA. However, I don't know if he's dropping with his DNA, but that is something I wanted to make note of as well. And then outside of that, it's just going to depend on what you're going to want to end up doing with your Dr. Light. If you just, for whatever reason, decide that you want to try to go a more defensive route, hey, you know what? player sentinels are right here with the Spy Devil card. That is something that you can do right there. The Hell Sigma card, which just came out recently with the most recent raid in global, has launcher amplification 2 on it alongside confusion resistance if you like that. And you can make use of this if you're using any kind of launcher like turbo cannon. Oh, I forgot to mention turbo cannon for as a weapon. But yeah, turbo cannon, decides will, cannon god, things of that nature. Or if you really would like, if you want to lean more into the immobilize status effects, because of the inherent mobilize Acolyte has, which can ignore preventive shield, and then maybe you're using the sprayer, the explosive blower, you can make something mobilize special attack like this. The Blanca card from the Street Fighter event has access to that if you really want to do that. And then you could also like maybe tech in slow special attack. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything with slow special attack. I think the Leviathan card, which you can get from the shop, has a slow special attack. Or the Sigma. Okay, the Sigma card has slow special attack too, so you can make use of this if you really want. Oh, the Homing Plasma card has a mobile special attack, and it triggers off of green, blue. So you can actually combo that with the Sigma card if you really opt to go, if you want to go like the more statusy route with that right there, because those can help each other trigger. And then on top of that, the Pandora card actually has player killer as well. So if you wanted to make use of either one of those, that's something to keep in mind as well. And actually, I kind of forgot the Pandora card had player killer, because I haven't been recommending that. But the Leviathan card, oh, it doesn't have slow special attack. Oh, oops. Pandora, Homing Plasma, and Sigma have some neat synergy there that you can make use of should you want to use those cards. All right, I think that will wrap up this video for Dr. Light the Martial Artist. He's going to be a pretty good unit for PvP, especially with, at the current point in time he's released in Global. I think he'll be very, very good. His only real weakness will be fighting zoners, I would say. Those will give him the most trouble, as he wants to close the distance and be up close and personal. You kind of brawler bruiser. Other than that, he should have pretty good matchups versus things. Should you pull for him? Yeah, I think if you're into the more PvP side of the game, it's definitely worth getting a look into, as he will have a decent longevity due to how early we're getting him in global, as opposed to like right on the cusp of, the more egregious units in terms of like power creep and things like that. I think he'll be very, very solid in the global meta for that. But that's going to be it for this video. I'd appreciate it if you guys could go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel, helps me grow, shows me enjoying the content. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to my YouTube channel members and my patrons for supporting me, allowing me to continue doing what I do. If you'd like to support me on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member, you can find information down below in the description. And I will catch you guys next time. Later.